It's 8 p.m. Time for Panorama News on NileTV International. I am Bsmة. Starting off with the main headlines. President Sisi receives CIA Director William Burns. Prime Minister Madbouli inaugurates the World Cities Day 2024. And at least 30 Palestinians killed in Israeli strikes across Gaza. Welcome back. The news in full. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received CIA Director William Burns on Thursday in the attendance of head of the General Intelligence Hassan Rashad. President el-Sisi and Burns reviewed the strategic partnership between Egypt and the United States and the keenness of the two countries to continue boosting of this partnership. The meeting tackled also developments of joint efforts to achieve calm in the Gaza Strip, and also means of pushing forward negotiations to reach ceasefire and exchange of hostages. It touched on an immediate and total access of humanitarian aid into the besieged enclave, which is considered as a priority for Egypt in light of the deteriorating situation in the Strip. President el-Sisi stressed the significance of the vital role played by the UNRWA and not hindering its work. The President underscored the importance of applying a two-state solution as the way to achieve peace and security in the region. The meeting also tackled the situation in Lebanon and the escalating situation in the region. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli inaugurated on Thursday the activities of World Cities Day 2024 in the Bibliotheca Alexandria. The activities witnessed extensive discussion sessions besides other cultural and artistic entertainment and sports events. The event was attended by the international and local delegations to promote youth participation in shaping sustainable cities and communities. The Cities Day events come as part of Egypt's preparation to host the World Urban Forum, the second largest event on the United Nations agenda in its 12th session in Cairo, under the auspices of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in November. Bibliotheca Alexandrina hosted on Thursday the World Cities Day 2024 under the theme Youth Climate Change, Makers Catalyzing Local Action for Urban Sustainability. The World Cities Day is considered a call to action for youth and local governments to work hand in hand to address the climate crisis. Details follow.
As cities around the world continue to grow, they are increasingly home to a new wave of young leaders committed to addressing the pressing issues of climate change. Youth are at the forefront of local action and innovation, playing a catalytic role in shaping sustainable and urban futures. On the 31st of October 2024, UN Habitat invites everyone committed to urban resilience and climate action to join the global observance of the World Cities Day under the theme Youth Climate Change Makers Catalyzing Local Action for Urban Sustainability. This year's event taking place in the historic city of Alexandria, Egypt, highlighting the leadership of young people driving bold transformative actions that contribute to building more sustainable and climate change resilient cities. With climate change intensifying urban challenges, particularly in rapidly growing cities, this year's observance emphasizes the power of youth to lead in urban adaptation and climate resilience. Cities are projected to house 70% of the world's population by 2050, facing unprecedented challenges in the context of climate change. By 2030, an estimated 60% of people will live in urban areas, with up to 60% of urban dwellers under 18. Despite progress towards sustainable development goals, cities, particularly in the global south, continue to grapple with poverty, inequality and environmental degradation, necessitating urgent action, and experts emphasize the importance of involving youth in urban decision-making to harness their creativity and drive sustainable development. World Cities Day 2024 themed Youth Climate Change Makers, catalyzing local action for urban sustainability, aims to showcase the crucial role of local governments and young people in addressing urban climate challenges. The event highlights youth proposed innovative ideas and explore ways to transform these into concrete actions.
The Health Ministry in Hamas-run Gaza said on Thursday that at least 43,204 had been killed in the year-long Israeli war in Gaza. According to the ministry, the toll included 41 deaths in the previous 24 hours. It added that 101,000 had been injured in the Gaza Strip since the war began on October 7, 2023. Up to 30 Palestinians were killed in Israeli military strikes across the Strip on Thursday, mostly in the north, where one attack hit a hospital, torching medical supplies and disrupting operations. There were no reports of any casualties at the hospital, which Israeli forces stormed and briefly occupied last week. Details follow.
At least 30 Palestinians were killed in Israeli military strikes across the Gaza Strip on Thursday, mostly in the north, where one attack hit a hospital, torching medical supplies and disrupting operations. The director of nursing at Kamal Adwan, which is in Beit Lahia, said some staff had suffered minor burns after the Israeli strike hit the third floor of the hospital. There were no reports of any casualties at the hospital, which Israeli forces stormed and briefly occupied last week. The health ministry in the Gaza Strip called for all international bodies to protect hospitals and medical staff from a brutality of the Israeli occupation. The Israeli military claimed its forces are operating in the hospital area based on intelligence about the presence of Hamas infrastructure in the vicinity. Northern Gaza, where Israel said in January it had dismantled Hamas command structure, is currently the main focus of the military's assault in the enclave. Earlier this month, it sent tanks into Jabalia, Beit Lahun and Beit Lahia to flush out Hamas members it said had regrouped in the area. Israel's subsequent assault on Gaza has killed more than 43,000 Palestinians and reduced most of the enclave to rubble. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had announced he had not received a proposal for a two-day truce and hostage release deal.
Three Palestinians were killed in Israeli military operations in the occupied West Bank city of Tulkarem overnight. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported on Thursday that two martyrs in North Shams camp in Tulkarem due to the occupation challenge. Violence in the West Bank has killed at least 749 Palestinians since October 7th. 5 people were killed, including 4 foreign workers and 1 Israeli farmer, in a Hezbollah attack on Israel's northern town of Metula on Thursday. The Lebanese Health Ministry said that also 6 Lebanese health workers were killed and 4 others wounded in 3 separate strikes across South Lebanon. Details follow.
5 people were killed in northern Israel on Thursday by projectiles fired from Lebanon, including 4 foreign workers. The Lebanese Health Ministry said that also 6 Lebanese health workers were killed and 4 others injured in 3 separate strikes across South Lebanon, brought the total toll to health workers killed and injured in over a year of Israeli strikes to 178 and 279 respectively. The Israeli military warned people to evacuate from more areas of southern southern Lebanon as airstrikes across the country killed at least 8 people. Meanwhile, Ireland's military said a base for Irish peacekeeping troops in southern Lebanon was hit by a rocket fire towards Israel and added that no one was injured. Irish Prime Minister Simon Harris described the incident as extremely serious and said not enough was being done to protect peacekeeping troops amid the Israel-Hezbollah conflict. About 350 Irish soldiers are currently deployed as peacekeepers with the United Nations mission Lebanon known as UNIFIL. Earlier, Israeli airstrikes also pounded the eastern Lebanese city of Baalbek, killing at least 19 people. The developments come as mediators are ramping up efforts to hold the wars in Lebanon and the Gaza Strip, circulating new proposals to wind down the regional conflict.
3 people were killed and 5 others injured in Israeli strikes on Syria's Qusayr region near the border with Lebanon on Thursday, where Israel said it hit Hezbollah weapons depot. The strikes targeted the town of Qusayr and surrounding areas. One strike targeted a weapons depot and a fuel storage facility for Hezbollah in the industrial city, killing 3 and wounding 5 others. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told visiting U.S. envoy Amos Hochstein and U.S. Middle East advisor Brett McGurk on Thursday that any ceasefire deal with Lebanon Hezbollah would have to guarantee Israeli security. Netanyahu specified that the main issue is Israel's determination and capacity to ensure the deal's application and prevent any threat to its security from Lebanon. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant met the envoys for a discussion which focused on security arrangements as these relate to northern Arena and Lebanon and efforts to ensure the return of hostages still held by Hamas in Gaza. Two children were among 3 killed in a Russian bombardment of an apartment building in Ukraine's second city of Kharkiv, with dozens more injured. A guided airstrike hit the building in the northeastern city. The attack killed 3 and wounded 35. Kharkiv lies around 30 kilometers from the Russian border and has been pounded by Russian air attacks throughout the 2.5-year military operation. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Thursday that a treaty that Russia and Iran intend to sign shortly will include closer defense cooperation. Lavrov told the state television that the treaty on a comprehensive strategic partnership between Russia and Iran that is being prepared will become a serious factor in boosting Russian-Iranian relations. He said the agreement was being prepared for signing in the near future. Russia has said it expects Iran president to visit Moscow before the end of the year. Military ties between the two countries are a source of deep concern to the West as Russia wages war in Ukraine while Iran and Israel have exchanged missile and air strikes in the Middle East. The Kremlin on Thursday declined to comment when asked if Russia was helping North Korea to develop its missile and other military technology following a test launch by Pyongyang and an intercontinental ballistic missile. Details follow.
The Kremlin on Thursday declined to comment when asked if Russia was helping North Korea to develop its missile and other military technology following a test launched by Pyongyang of an intercontinental ballistic missile. North Korea said it had tested the missile, upgrading what it called the world's most powerful strategic weapon. As Seoul warned Pyongyang could get missile technology from Russia for helping with the war in Ukraine. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said the test was a warning to enemies that have been threatening the country's security. The United States and NATO say some North Korean soldiers are in the Kursk region, a Russian border area, which Ukrainian forces punched their way into in August and where they continue to hold territory. Moscow has neither denied nor directly confirmed the presence of North Korean troops on its soil, with President Vladimir Putin saying it is Russia's business whether or not it decides to use North Korean troops. Russia said on Wednesday that North Korean Foreign Minister Choi Son-hui was on her way to Moscow to hold strategic consultations with her Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov stressed the importance of a comprehensive strategic partnership, which included a mutual defense clause that was signed by Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un during a visit to Pyongyang by the Russian leader in June. Russia and North Korea have deepened their political and military alliance as the Ukraine war has dragged on, but sending Pyongyang's troops into combat against Kiev's forces.
Spanish rescue teams flooded homes and stranded calls for those still missing after devastating floods in the Valencia region that killed at least 95, with forecasts of more bad weather prompting storm alerts further north. Details follow.
Spanish authorities told people in flood-stricken regions to stay at home as rescuers raced to find survivors in the rare disaster that has left at least 95 dead. Spain began 3 days of mourning as rescuers with drones scoured towns devastated by the floods that hit the region around the eastern city of Valencia particularly hard. Emergency services backed by more than 1,200 troops combed mud-caked towns and villages on Thursday to find survivors and clear roads of debris. Government ministers have warned that toll is likely to rise, with many people still missing and some areas remaining inaccessible to rescuers throughout Wednesday. Spain's King Felipe VI warned the emergency was still not over, and National Weather Service AEMET put parts of the Valencia region on the highest alert level for torrential rain. Hundreds of people are being sheltered in temporary accommodation while road and rail transport are severely disrupted. It could take up to 3 weeks to reopen the high-speed line between Madrid and Valencia. The death toll is the worst from floods in Spain since 1973, when at least 150 people were estimated to have died in the southeastern provinces of Granada, Murcia and Almeria. Scientists say human-driven climate change is increasing the length, frequency and intensity of extreme weather events.
Now it's time for some economic news with Lubna Yahya. Short break and we will be back.
Welcome back. This is Lubna Yahya bringing to you the business news. Starting off right away with the headlines. Egypt's stock market indices collectively rise. Eurozone inflation rebounds more than expected in October. BOJ keeps policy steady, leaves door open for near-term rate hike. Welcome back with the news in full. Egypt's stock market indices collectively rose on Thursday, being bolstered by purchasing operations by Arab and foreign investors. The main EGX 30 index soared 0.94%. The small and medium EGX 70 index added 1.51%. The more expanded EGX 100 index added 1.37%. The overall transactions and dealings within the session reached £145.6 billion. European and Asian stocks were mostly down Thursday following a weak lead from Wall Street as investors digested mixed company earnings and remained risk-adverse ahead of a coin toss U.S. election. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.44%. The S&P 500 fell 0.66%, while the Nasdaq Composite dropped 0.97%. In Europe, London FTSE 100 lost 0.8%, Paris CAC 40 lost 0.9%, Frankfurt DAX lost 0.5%. In Asia, Tokyo Nikkei 225 lost 0.5%, Hong Kong Hang Seng Index lost 0.3%, and Shanghai Composite added 0.4%. The yen rose on Thursday after the Bank of Japan took a less dovish tone than expected, while the U.S. dollar ticked lower ahead of jobs data later this week. The yen also firmed against other currencies, with the euro down 0.3% at 166.07 yen. Sterling ticked 0.1% higher to $1.29740, and the euro also edged up to 0.2%. The Eurozone's annual inflation rate rebounded more than expected in October due to rising food costs, but remains in line with the European Central Bank's 2% target. Details follow.
The Eurozone's annual inflation rate rebounded more than expected in October due to rising food costs, according to official data released on Thursday, but remains in line with the European Central Bank's 2% target. Year-on-year consumer price increases in the 20-country single currency area reached 2% in October, rising from 1.7% in September. The September rate had been the first time the figure fell below the ECB's 2% target in more than 3 years. Inflation accelerated more than expected by analysts surveyed by FactSet and Bloomberg, who predicted it would increase to 1.9% in October. But core inflation, which strips out volatile energy, food, alcohol and tobacco prices and is a key indicator for the bank, remained stable at 2.7% in October. The core inflation figure was higher than expected by analysts, who predicted it would fall to 2.6% this month from 2.7% in September. Food and drink price rises reached 2.9% in October, well above the 2.4% increase registered in September. Meanwhile, energy prices fell at a slower rate of 4.6% compared with a 6.1% drop a month earlier. With inflation cooling since its 10.6% peak in October 2022, the ECB has begun cutting interest rates this year as it focuses on tackling Europe's sluggish growth.
The Bank of Japan maintained ultra-low interest rates on Thursday, but said risks around the U.S. economy were somewhat subsiding, signaling that conditions are falling into place to raise interest rates again. The central bank also projected inflation would move around its 2% target in the coming years, stressing its resolve to keep raising borrowing costs if the economy sustains a moderate recovery. The BOJ kept short-term interest rates at 0.25% at its two-day meeting, its first since an inconclusive general election that analysts said will complicate efforts to normalize interest rates after years of ultra-easy policy. The BOJ had said it could afford to spend time scrutinizing risks after its rate hike in July, and weak U.S. jobs data triggered a sharp yen spike and a global market rout.